Every morning, as the sun peeked over the rooftops of the bustling city, Emily wrapped her worn coat tightly around her and stepped out into the chilly air. The streets were already alive with the sounds of cars honking, people rushing by, and the distant hum of city life waking up. But Emily's mind wasn't on the busy world around her. Instead, it was on the small, familiar figure huddled near the corner cafe, a man she had come to see every single day. He sat there on a cracked, uneven sidewalk, his clothes threadbare and stained, his face weathered by years of hardship. Despite the cold that bit into his bones, he never moved from his spot, eyes fixed on the passers-by with a quiet, almost resigned patience. To most people, he was just another beggar, another face in the crowd. But to Emily, he was a reminder of the kindness she still believed existed in the world. Without fail, Emily would stop at the nearby cafe and buy a steaming cup of tea, carrying it carefully back to him. She would kneel down, place the cup gently before him, and offer a small smile. "Here, it's warm," she would say softly. "You deserve this." The man never spoke much, just a nod or a quiet, "Thank you." But those few words were enough to warm Emily's heart. It wasn't about the tea or even the gratitude. It was about doing something, however small, to make someone else's day a little better. Emily's own life was far from easy. She worked long hours at a local bookstore, barely making enough to cover rent and groceries. She lived alone in a tiny apartment, and some days the loneliness felt heavier than the cold winter air. But every morning her small ritual gave her purpose. It reminded her that even in the hardest times, a little kindness could ripple outward and maybe, just maybe, change something. As the days turned into weeks, Emily's routine became a quiet secret between her and the man on the street. Passers-by often glanced at her curiously, some even with disdain, wondering why a young woman like her would waste her time on someone so poor, so invisible. But Emily never cared about their judgments. She only saw a human being deserving of respect. One morning, as she approached with the familiar cup of tea, Emily noticed something different. The man looked up and met her gaze directly, a faint smile touching his lips. "Thank you, Emily," he said softly. Emily blinked in surprise. He knew her name. "How do you know me?" she asked gently. The man chuckled, a deep, rich sound that seemed almost out of place on the cold street. "I've been watching you. Your kindness is rare." That moment marked the beginning of something Emily could never have expected. A journey that would take her far beyond the streets she knew, into a world of mystery, wealth, and unexpected destiny. If you're ready to hear how a simple act of kindness led Emily to a life she never dreamed possible, then don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss a single part of this incredible story. Because sometimes, the smallest gestures have the power to change lives forever. Emily's life had always been simple, maybe even too simple, but that was all she ever really wanted. She wasn't looking for grandeur or wealth. She was content with her little bookstore, job, the small apartment she called home, and the quiet routine that gave her days meaning. Yet, after that moment when the beggar, whose name she still didn't know, spoke her name, something inside her shifted. Days passed, but Emily's curiosity about the man grew. Who was he really? How did he know her name? She decided to talk to him more, to try and learn a little about the man she met every day. Each morning she brought not only tea but also a little food, hoping to offer more than just warmth. The man, whom she now knew was called Henry, slowly began to share pieces of his story, not all at once, but in small, careful fragments. Henry was once a man of means, he said, someone who had lived in mansions, traveled the world, and had more money than he could ever spend. But life had a way of changing paths, sometimes cruelly and without warning. A series of unfortunate events had led him to lose everything, including his family, his home, and his name. Now he was just a shadow of the man he used to be, a beggar on the street. But even in his brokenness, Henry spoke with dignity. His eyes held a spark, a glimmer of the man he once was, and a hope for what might still be. Emily listened, captivated by his words, and humbled by his honesty. For Emily, these moments became the highlight of her day. In a world that often felt cold and indifferent, she found warmth in their conversations. She learned to see beyond the worn clothes and tired face, recognizing the soul beneath. But life, as always, was unpredictable. One chilly morning, as Emily approached Henry with the usual cup of tea, she noticed a sleek black limousine waiting across the street. A driver stood beside the door, watching her with interest. Before she could react, Henry stood up, looked her straight in the eyes, and said, "Emily, your kindness has not gone unnoticed. Today you will step into a world you never imagined." Pshwanvi. Limo door opened and a voice called out, "Miss Emily, may I have the honor?" Her heart raced. Questions flooded her mind, but without hesitation she stepped inside. The door closed softly behind her, and the limo began to glide away from the familiar streets of her city into the unknown. Emily's life was about to change forever. The sleek black limousine moved smoothly through the city streets, cutting a sharp contrast against the gray, familiar world Emily had known all her life. She sat quietly in the back seat, heart pounding, a mixture of excitement, confusion, and disbelief swirling inside her. Questions flooded her mind. Why was this happening? Who was Henry, really? And what awaited her at the end of this ride? Emily had always believed life followed a straightforward path. Work hard, stay humble, and make the best of what you have. But now, every certainty was dissolving like mist under the bright morning sun. She glanced out the window, watching the buildings blur past, feeling as if she had stepped into a dream she wasn't quite ready to wake from. The driver, a polished man in a crisp uniform, didn't speak much, but every now and then he stole a glance at Emily as if silently reminding her that this was no ordinary journey. Emily, still clutching the small scarf Henry had given her just moments ago, a token, he said, to keep her warm, wondered what awaited her at the mysterious destination. Minutes felt like hours as the limo navigated the winding roads leading out of the city and into greener, more affluent neighborhoods she had only seen from afar. Towering trees lined the streets, and the air felt different here, cleaner, quieter, filled with a promise of something new. Finally, the limo came to a graceful stop in front of an enormous mansion that seemed to rise out of the earth itself. The house was magnificent, its stone walls glowing warmly in the soft sunlight, large windows reflecting the blue sky, and a grand entrance flanked by tall pillars that spoke of old money and refined taste. Emily's breath caught in her throat. This was a world she had only glimpsed in movies or stories. As the door opened, a woman stepped out to greet her. She was elegant, with a warm smile and eyes that sparkled with genuine kindness. "Welcome, Emily," she said softly. "I'm Margaret, and it's a pleasure to meet you." Emily stepped out of the limo, feeling the weight of every step. The gravel crunched beneath her feet as she followed Margaret inside the mansion's grand foyer. The walls were adorned with beautiful paintings and expensive-looking decorations, but Emily's eyes were drawn to the people moving around, staff members and family members alike, each one watching her with a mixture of curiosity and respect. Margaret led her through the halls, sharing stories of the house's history, its beauty, and the legacy it carried. But Emily's mind was elsewhere, still trying to comprehend how a simple act of kindness, offering tea to a beggar, had led her here. Once inside a cozy sitting room, Margaret finally spoke the words Emily had been waiting for. "Emily, the man you know as Henry is not just any beggar. He is the last heir of this estate, a man who lost everything but never lost his heart. He asked me to bring you here because he believes you deserve a chance to be part of this family, this legacy." Emily sat down, overwhelmed. Tears welled up as she tried to grasp the magnitude of what was happening. "But why me?" she whispered. Margaret smiled gently. "Because kindness is the greatest wealth of all, Emily. Henry saw in you something rare, a heart that never wavered, even when life was hard. And that is why today your life begins anew. Over the next few days, Emily was introduced to the EF mansion's inner workings. She met the staff who cared for the estate, the distant relatives who eyed her suspiciously, and the quiet moments when she could simply breathe and dream. Henry, when he appeared, shared more of his story, how tragedy struck, how he chose to live humbly until he found Emily. Through it all, Emily learned that true wealth was not measured by money or possessions, but by love, trust, and the courage to keep going despite hardships. The mansion was more than a home. It was a symbol of second chances, of how small acts of kindness can echo through time and change destinies. And as Emily stood by the window, looking out over the vast gardens, she knew that this was just the beginning of a journey neither she nor Henry could have imagined. Emily's days at the mansion began to settle into a rhythm, yet every morning she awoke with a mixture of wonder and disbelief. How had her life shifted so dramatically from simple mornings by the corner cafe to the grandeur of a sprawling estate? Every room she explored whispered stories of the past, echoes of laughter, whispered secrets, and the weight of generations. Yet the mansion was more than walls and paintings. It was a living testament to resilience and renewal. Henry remained, a quiet presence, often sitting in the library surrounded by books that seemed as old as time itself. His face had softened with age and hardship, but his eyes still held that spark of wisdom and kindness that had first drawn Emily to him. There, friendship deepened, built on shared stories and silent understanding. He taught her not just about the mansion's history but about life's unpredictable twists and the importance of grace through it all. Margaret, too, became a comforting figure, her warmth and gentle guidance helping Emily navigate this new world of luxury and responsibility. Yet despite the kindness around her, Emily sometimes felt a pang of isolation. The vast halls and formal dinners reminded her how far she had come from the familiar streets and the cozy bookstore where she once worked. Some relatives eyed her with thinly veiled suspicion. Whispers of an outsider echoed in the background. But Emily's resolve only strengthened. She was here to honor the kindness Henry had shown her, and she would not let doubt shadow her new path. One crisp autumn afternoon, Emily wandered through the gardens, the air tinged with the scent of fallen leaves and the soft murmur of distant birds. The mansion's grounds stretched endlessly, a world away from the city's chaos. She found herself near a small, forgotten fountain, where she sat quietly, reflecting on her journey. The simplicity of that moment was a balm to her soul, a reminder that even in grandeur, peace could be found. Her thoughts were interrupted by the sound of footsteps. Turning, she saw Margaret approaching, holding a small envelope in her hand. "Emily," she said softly, "Henry asked me to give this to you." With trembling hands, Emily took the envelope. Inside was a letter, penned in Henry's careful handwriting. He wrote of his past, the hardships that had tested him, and his unwavering belief in kindness as the truest form of wealth. He spoke of his hope that Emily would use this opportunity not just for herself but to bring light to others, to remember where she came from, even as she embraced her new life. Tears filled Emily's eyes. She realized that Henry's gift was not just the mansion or wealth, it was the chance to make a difference, to live a life of purpose rooted in compassion. As the days grew shorter and winter approached, Emily threw herself into learning the responsibilities the estate demanded. She met with advisors, managed staff, and began to plan how she could honor Henry's vision. But beyond the duties, she sought ways to connect her past with this new world, plans to support the community she once walked every day, to help those, like Henry, who had fallen through the cracks. One evening, as snowflakes began to dust the gardens, Emily stood by the grand window, watching the world transform under a blanket of white. The mansion no longer felt like a gilded cage, but a beacon of hope. And within her heart, a quiet promise took root, that no matter where life took her, she would never forget the power of a simple act of kindness. Months had passed since Emily stepped into the grand mansion, each day weaving her more deeply into the fabric of a world she had never imagined. The seasons changed, and with each new dawn, she felt the weight of responsibility settle more firmly on her shoulders, but not as a burden. Instead, it was a calling, a purpose that filled her heart with resolve. The once intimidating corridors had become familiar paths, and the faces of the staff and distant relatives, though still cautious, began to soften with time. Emily's warmth and unwavering kindness slowly melted the walls of suspicion. She was no longer an outsider, but a beacon of hope in the estate's long history. Her efforts to honor Henry's wishes blossomed into projects that reached beyond the mansion's gates. Emily established community outreach programs offering shelter, food, and education to those struggling on the streets, the very people Henry had once been among. Her bookstore background became an asset as she created reading corners and learning centers for children in nearby neighborhoods, igniting a spark of curiosity and hope. One chilly morning, as Emily prepared for a community event, Henry visited her with a rare smile. "You've done more than I ever dreamed," he said, his voice filled with pride. "This place, this family, it's alive because of you." Emily's eyes shimmered with tears. "I couldn't have done it without your faith in me." Their bond had grown beyond friendship, a shared journey of healing and purpose. But as her world expanded, so did the challenges. Managing the estate and its responsibilities tested her in ways she had never anticipated. Financial concerns, legal hurdles, and family tensions arose like shadows, threatening to dim the light she had worked so hard to nurture. One afternoon, Emily found herself in a heated discussion with a distant cousin who questioned her right to lead the estate. The confrontation left her shaken, but also more determined. She realized that true strength wasn't just in kindness, but in resilience and the courage to stand firm for what she believed in. In quieter moments, Emily reflected on the man who had changed her life, Henry. Though frail, he remained a source of wisdom and encouragement. His stories of loss and redemption became lessons she carried forward, guiding her through uncertainty. As the estate flourished under her care, Emily also found moments of joy and love. She connected with people who shared her vision and values, building friendships that grounded her in the whirlwind of change. In the laughter of children at the community center, in the gratitude of those helped, Emily discovered a new family, one built on hope, kindness, and shared dreams. One evening, standing on the mansion's balcony, Emily gazed at the stars twinkling above. The journey from a simple act of offering tea to a stranger to this moment felt surreal. Yet, she knew that every step, every challenge, and every triumph was part of a greater story. A story of compassion's power to transform lives, and, as the cool night breeze whispered through the trees, Emily whispered a promise to herself to carry Henry's legacy forward, to be a light in the darkness for others, and to never forget that even the smallest acts of kindness could lead to the most extraordinary changes. As the seasons turned, once more, Emily found herself standing at the very heart of the legacy she had inherited. A legacy built not just on wealth or property, but on compassion, resilience, and the power of small acts to change lives. The mansion, once a symbol of the past's grandeur, had become a beacon of hope and renewal for the community and for Emily herself. Throughout her journey, Emily had faced challenges that tested her spirit and resolve. From navigating the complexities of family dynamics to managing the demands of the estate, every step was a lesson in perseverance. But with each challenge came growth, and with every setback a deeper understanding of what it meant to truly lead with kindness. One crisp winter morning, Emily received a letter that would forever change the course of her mission. It was from a foundation dedicated to supporting community leaders, people who, like Emily, use their influence to uplift those in need. The letter praised her work and offered a significant grant to expand her outreach programs. The news filled Emily with renewed energy. She knew this was an opportunity to extend her vision far beyond the mansion's walls. With the grant, she launched new initiatives, skills training workshops, health clinics, and scholarship programs that opened doors for countless individuals. who once felt trapped by circumstance. Emily's efforts did not go unnoticed. Media outlets began to tell her story, inspiring others to believe in the power of kindness and the possibility of transformation. Invitations to speak at conferences and events poured in, giving her a platform to share Henry's story and the profound impact of compassion. Yet, amidst the growing recognition, Emily remained humble. She often returned to the mansion's quiet corners, reflecting on the journey that had brought her here. She thought of the beggar she had offered tea to daily, not knowing that simple kindness would lead to a life beyond her dreams. Her relationship with Henry deepened in these moments of reflection. Though his health was fragile, his spirit remained strong, and he continued to guide her with gentle wisdom. Their bond was a testament to the healing power of friendship and trust. One evening, as snow gently blanketed the estate, Emily hosted a gathering to celebrate the community's achievements. People from all walks of life, neighbors, friends, and supporters came together in warmth and gratitude. The mansion's halls echoed with laughter and music, a living celebration of hope realized. Standing among them, Emily felt a profound sense of fulfillment. She had transformed not only her own life, but the lives of many others. The journey from a simple act of kindness to this moment was a reminder that no gesture is too small to make a difference. As the night drew to a close, Emily stepped outside, into the crisp air, gazing at the stars that shimmered above the mansion. She whispered a quiet promise to continue living with an open heart, to nurture the seeds of kindness wherever they took root, and to honor Henry's legacy by being a light in the world.